Transcripts and recordings of the podcast may not be used for any purpose without the direct written permission of the podcast owner. Welcome to LITE It Up, a podcast about resilient women balancing motherhood, their careers, personal lives, and all of the challenges that come along with being a superwoman. Each week, you'll be motivated to take action, to lead, inspire, transform, and empower. Now, here's your host, Dr. Aginah Musherah. Hey everybody, welcome to a brand new episode of LITE It Up. I am your host, Dr. Aginah Musherah. I am so very excited about this week's episode because I have a very special guest, Miss Echo Muhammad. No relation, but she is my sister. Echo Muhammad is a dedicated self-love advocate and empowerment coach. And I have her joining me today on LITE It Up because she has some exciting news to share about an upcoming EmpowerHER Mind, Body, and Soul retreat, which is taking place on Saturday, October 12th in the Chicagoland area. So I wanted to give Echo an opportunity to talk to us today about the importance of self-love, self-care, the difference between the two, and of course, to talk about her upcoming retreat. So welcome to LITE It Up, Echo. How are you?
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, sis. I appreciate it.
I am so excited about you joining me today because I saw the advertisement for your upcoming retreat and I was like, I got to bring you on because self-care is very, very important, particularly for Black women. And there's so much that goes into it, or at least I think sometimes as Black women, we kind of feel like I don't have time for self-care.
Exactly.
And so the fact that you have carved out this space to give women an opportunity to pause and reflect, refocus, reset, I think is phenomenal. But before we get into the retreat, why don't you share with the audience a little bit about your background? Because, of course, I'm just so excited about this self-love advocate and empowerment coach, because we've had some sessions about some other things that maybe.
and that stems from the self-love.
Yes.
So a little bit about how I got on this journey. I was married in a toxic marriage for 13 years. I got married young at 22 years old, and I was married for 13 years. I have 2 daughters, and so towards the end of that marriage, I had completely lost myself. I never found well, let me go back. I never found myself. At 22, you just don't know. And then I'm married. And then 6 months after I get married, now I'm pregnant with my first child. So there was no time in between for me to grow and fully develop into the woman that I needed to become. You know, to even be a wife, a mother. It was just in the midst of everything.
Right.
And so after 13 years, when I knew that marriage was over, then I had to figure out, okay, now what? And I had 2 girls looking at me, being that role model example. And I'm like, okay, I want better for them.
Mm-hmm.
So that is what catapulted me into just focusing on, okay, how do I figure this out for them? And during that time, I just realized I had no clue who I was. And I was really no good to them wandering around blindly, trying to be an example for them. And so it was just small things. I would just take the time for me, small things. And my children they're 25 and 30 now, and they laugh about it. But I had this rule in my house at 9 o'clock, stop talking to me. You don't get to talk to me after 9 o'clock. Like, you just don't. And so they thought that I was being cruel, but I just needed that time. Granted, they were in school, so they need to be in bed anyway, but really, like, it's not an emergency. I just need this time. So it
Mhm.
really started with something simple as that. And then it just kind of grew from carving out that little bit of time for myself, to just larger things. Um, I suffered from anxiety for several reasons, I think.
Mhm.
Um, and it just started to take a toll on my health. Like, I'm like running around, like a chicken with head cut off. I'm worrying all the time. And it started to physically affect my body.
Mhm.
And so I'm like, okay, I have to do something. And, sometimes you start researching something and you go down this rabbit hole, and one thing kind of leads to another. And so in me taking that time for myself, I started meditating, and I could not sit still for 5 minutes. I started itching, scratching what didn't itch. I'm fidgety, I'm moving around. I could not sit still for the anxiety was so bad. My mind, I could not quiet my mind for anything. And I just said, okay, I don't like how I'm feeling. I have to do something. Let me just stick with it.
Mhm.
And so I just went on YouTube. I went on YouTube, typed in 5 minute meditation. And I think it was a 5 minute guided meditation.
Okay.
And like I said, I'm sitting there and I'm scratching and I'm doing all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, every day I'm just going to try to sit for 5 minutes. And then it got to a point where I was able to relax and breathe just for that 5 minutes. Meditation taught me how to breathe, because doing the guided meditation tells you, okay, remove the tongue from the roof of your mouth, and relax your shoulders, and all the stuff that I was doing that was keeping me all wound up. The guided meditation helped me, and so I just stuck with it. And then I realized that after a while, I didn't need the guided meditation. And I started thinking about, well, what other things do I like? Well, I like the sound of water. I like the sound of rain. I like nature sounds. Those are the things that I like. So I started meditating to those sounds, and I was able to meditate longer.
Okay.
So it went from 5 minutes to 10 minutes. The longest I've ever sat in a meditative state has been 1 hour.
Wow.
And it was with a group of people for Black Meditation Day.
Okay.
Um, but I was able to sit for 1 hour. And the longer that I was able to sit in meditation, when I tell you, I mean, at first I used to get upset because I'm thinking about the groceries, what I got to get from the grocery store, what bills need to be paid, what errands need to be run. But after a while, that kind of went away. And I was able to sit there and just really have clarity of mind. I started getting just downloads, like,
Mhm.
bright ideas, or, things that I hadn't thought about, or things that I had forgotten about, that I, kind of needed to process and deal with. And
Right.
so the meditation kind of catapulted me into the yoga.
Okay.
So one thing kind of led, into, like I said, you start going down this rabbit hole.
Mhm.
And so the meditation led me into the yoga. And so I started doing the yoga, and then that kind of led into the breathing exercises. Um, and so the breathing exercises just helped me more to relax, get more in tune with my body. And so it was just like a domino
Effect.
effect.
Yeah.
But I realized that it just, all of those things, me making time
Mm-hmm.
started the whole self-care journey for me.
How do you, well, what I appreciate as I was listening to you, similar path in terms of getting married young. I think I might have been 23 or 24. Clearly, when we were in our 20s, that was too young
Right.
to get married. You haven't experienced life, but I was also married for 11 years. Um,
Mm-hmm.
have two daughters. Our daughters share the same name, Aaliyah.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, and what I appreciate is your willingness or your ability to be honest and communicate, meaning telling your daughters, listen, at 9 o'clock, that's it. You
Right.
know, um, you created or set the boundaries that you needed to kind of begin to take charge of your life.
Right.
Um, because as moms, especially when you have the responsibility of being the primary caretaker, what have you, oftentimes we just run ourselves ragged
Right.
and not tell our children, like, listen, mommy needs a moment,
Right.
or what have you. So I think that's great that you recognize very early that this was something that you needed to do so that you could be a better example for your daughters,
Right.
because our children are always watching us.
Oh
We
yeah, for
may
sure.
say, do what we say or what have you, but they are paying attention to our actions,
Right.
um, and how we treat ourselves
Right.
ultimately. So,
Exactly.
yeah.
And I never felt guilty about doing that. And
Mm,
I think part of that was going through my divorce. Like I said, it was a toxic marriage. So going through my divorce, where I didn't feel that I was a priority, once I ended that relationship, then I felt like I had to make myself a priority. And so that's what I started to do, and think about, okay, well, what is it that I like? What is it
mhm,
that I don't like? What are some things that, I want to do? And I just made a way to do those things and not feel guilty about it.
mhm,
I started traveling, with my friends, going on girls trips and those types of things, and I had no problem with, taking my children to my mom's house and having her watch them,
mhm.
while I go to Spain for a few days. Like that's,
Yeah.
and they looking at me, and I was traveling not a whole lot, but
Mhm.
I've been to quite a few countries, and my
Yeah.
children say, you just out here just living it up, just living your life. You're not even thinking about us, or whatever. And I'm like, I just didn't allow that noise that they were saying, because they're
Mhm.
children.
Right.
But it wasn't like they wanted for anything. you
Mhm.
know Both of them had passports,
Mhm.
before they were teenagers, so
Mhm.
they just were wanting to be children, because they saw me doing things that, they were like, well, you doing this and you're leaving us here. And then now they appreciate, that process, that journey that we went through. So I just never felt guilty about it. And then I would always encourage my friends to kind of do those same things. I
Yeah.
have people in my circle that, you know, never kind of went after the things that they wanted to do
Mhm.
because of their children. And I was always that person in the background. I'm going to tell, look, this is what you need to do. And this is
Right.
why you need to do it, whatever. And I would always kind of just be that example for what I was saying, because I
Mhm.
was I was going through it. I was living through it. And that's kind of how the empowerment coach came about. Like,
Okay.
calling myself a coach is cringy to me. I'm going to be honest.
Hi.
But the more that I talk to people, they like, well, that is
But
exactly
you
what
are.
you are. I mean,
Exactly.
exactly. So, and I just try to live by example. So, if it inspires you, if it encourages you, if it empowers you, then I've done my job. And so
Yeah.
calling myself a coach is cringy to me, but the textbook definition, it is what it is.
It is what it is. And now you know why it's cringy to you, and I know why it's cringy to you, but the people who are listening and viewing don't know. It is because you are a Virgo, and we are very humble and modest, and we don't like to be in the limelight
Oh
and things of
no.
that nature. But that's what you do. You are coaching others to be the best version of themselves.
Exactly.
So you got to own it, ma'am.
I know. I know. I'm working through it. I mean, and the thing about it, like, I have a coach. So, and she's like, "You are
Mhm.
a coach." I have a business coach, but she's like, "That's exactly what you are." So she's helping me through that. And I said, "Now that's crazy. Now here I have hired a coach, but I have a problem calling myself a coach. Like, I have to get over it."
So tell me now, I also think it's fascinating that you didn't experience mom guilt. Like, I just had a conversation with someone earlier today, um, who, was expressing that they felt guilty about not doing something for their child. But their young adult, told
Hmm.
them that I don't need your help. I can do this. I got this. And I found myself coaching this mom saying, listen, give that young adult what they've asked for.
Hmm.
They think that they, can do it on their own. Step back and don't feel guilty because you know that you have provided and done
Exactly.
everything that you can. But I do think that it is sometimes that there's something that just kind of creeps, into your spirit because I know I have experienced it and I know that I have bent over backwards, for
Hmm.
mine.
Hmm.
But I do find myself needing to snap out of it, in terms of not feeling guilty about taking care of myself, which is one of the reasons why for my birthday, I am going somewhere with
Yes.
or without an individual. That's my
Yes.
time to really be reflective, to reset,
Hmm.
refocus. And I don't allow anyone to make me feel guilty. As a matter of fact, my mom said to me, I just don't understand why you always have to go out of the country for your birthday. And I said, because I want to.
Right.
And I said, why did you go on a cruise to see Michael McDonald and Patti LaBelle? And she was like, oh, well, since you put it that way, I said, it is important to do the things that
Right.
you want to do.
Exactly.
And you shouldn't allow anyone to make you feel guilty
Right.
about it because we do so much that we are deserving to treat ourselves or,
Right.
to take that time for ourselves. So I'm just curious, how do you, as far as, you walked us through how you began with meditation and then it led to yoga, which I know you've also hosted a few yoga sessions. I've had an
Mhm.
opportunity to participate in that. And I will tell you, yoga was everything for me. I need to get back into the practice because I could tell the difference. I can
Mhm.
even
Mhm.
tell the difference with in terms of meditation. I tried to do something differently as I have committed to resetting to
Mhm.
make sure that I don't allow any distractions in the morning from me taking the time to meditate.
Right.
And my whole just disposition, I can
Right.
tell the difference. In
Yeah.
fact, I was at the grocery store this morning and this man, Echo, was like, well, good morning. And I took a page out of your book from your coaching session and I smiled and I said, well, hello, good morning. But anyway, it was it was better than me having the resting bitch face and just, what
Exactly.
I mean?
Exactly.
But I felt good because I had gotten up this morning, I meditated, I walked for 2.5 miles.
Mm-hmm.
It was just completely different.
Mm-hmm.
I was committed to taking that time for myself because I have found that I've run myself, in
Right.
the ground.
Right.
So,
And so part of what you're saying, just you taking that time for yourself, you prioritizing yourself and having that self-love, that radiates out into the universe, right? And so you have a certain vibe. People tell me all the time, it's just something you got that je ne sais
mhm,
quoi. It's just something. And it's nothing that I'm doing. Like you mentioned earlier, like it's Virgos, I'll take a step back. I don't need to be the center of attention. That irks me. I don't need that. But I've accepted the fact that people are naturally drawn to me. And I just attribute that to not just my confidence, but just my aura all the way around. And I think that because I spend a lot of time in the present moment, being mindful, I'm very intentional about everything, being
mhm,
mindful, um, being observant of other people. Um, and I think that naturally, I'm an empath by nature. So I can
mhm.
kind of pick up on different energies, people,
Yeah.
whatever, and I'm able to navigate through all of that. But you taking the time, for yourself and prioritizing yourself. I mean, we're single.
Mhm.
Um, it's important to have that kind of routine or live that kind of life before you get into a relationship with someone else. And I learned that because I was married at 22 and
Mhm.
I never took the time. I didn't know what I liked or didn't like or whatever. And then here I am in this relationship and he's running the show and his frontal lobe wasn't even fully developed at 22 years old. Where was that leading me?
Right.
So I'm like, okay. So yeah, so it's a certain vibe, it's a certain aura. And I think that if more people took the time to be present, um that it would just elevate just the energy, just
Yeah.
you start with yourself, then your circle, your community, your neighborhood, and then overall you elevate the world, really. This
Right.
this is what I do. For me, is my contribution. It's like this is my purpose, you know
Mhm.
not just to live the best life, but to be an example and to encourage others to live their best life. If everybody lived their best life, what would the world look like?
Right. It would be a much better place.
Right.
It
Right.
really would. Yeah.
Right.
So let's kind of dig into the Empower Her Mind, Body, and Soul retreat. Why did you decide to launch this, curate this retreat? What should we expect? Give us all of the details so that we can get ourselves recentered.
Well, for a while, I've been on this self-love journey for a while. And we didn't talk about it, but I just want to touch on the difference between self-love and self-care. Because
Yes.
as women, we think that, okay, I get my hair done, I get my nails done, whatever. I buy the purse, I buy the shoes, whatever. That's maintenance. That's
Right.
your that's self-care, but it's not necessarily self-love, you know,
Mhm.
um, because you have to really prioritize yourself, not just make the appointment
Right.
to get the hair done. You know what I'm saying? It's like, okay, you have to really, take the time to invest in everything. And so that's why it's empower her mind, body, and soul.
Okay.
Um, so you want to be able to touch on everything. I get up every morning and work out. I appreciate the body that I have, and I want it functioning and working for me as I get older. So I make the time to make sure that I move it every day in some form or fashion. I make sure that I'm eating the right foods that provide longevity. I just turned 53. And
50
so
what?
I get
Girl,
right.
please.
I just turned 53. Just celebrated 35 years of being out of high school. And I'm like, I don't look much older than 35. So I'm good with that. You know what I'm saying? And we just had our alumni picnic on Sunday. And you look the
Oh,
same way you did in high school. And I'm like,
talking about that school CVS.
yes, I am. I am a Cavalier, class of 89. So yeah, and people like, well, you look just like you did in high school, but there's a reason for that. It's not just I just have good genes.
Mhm.
I prioritize myself and I take care of myself. So, I'm juicing, I'm drinking my water, I'm, eating, nourishing foods. I don't smoke. I will drink socially,
Mhm.
but it's not over the top and
Right,
all the time.
right.
I take my herbs and my supplements or whatever. I don't want to go to the doctor.
Mhm.
I want to be able to live a vibrant life. I don't want my children to have to, you know, get me out the bathtub,
Yeah.
or I just, that is just like my biggest fear. I don't want to put that burden on them. It's not
Mhm.
fair to them to
Yeah.
do that,
Yeah.
And so I want to take care of myself and be in the best health that I can be, you know, for as long as I can. So not just physically, but then mentally too. So that's why the our biggest thing is our cortisol levels
Yeah.
are,
Off
and
the chart.
people don't understand that stress. When you
Mhm.
raise your cortisol levels, that is what is killing us as Black women.
Yeah.
And so we have to get that under control. So what do you need to do to de-stress? For me, like I said, it was the meditation, it was the
Mhm.
yoga, it was the deep breathing. You know, they tell you all the time, you get all wound up, what do they say? Okay, just breathe, just
Mhm.
take a deep breath.
Right.
People tell you that all the time, but then you have to make the time to actually do that. And so, you got your mind, you got, your body and your soul. And I am big on, okay, what fulfills me? What
Mhm.
makes me happy? I just want to have joy. What, excites me, lights my fire or whatever. For me, it's traveling.
Mhm.
Um, I've been to, I think, 16 countries. I've traveled solo. I've traveled with friends. I've traveled and gone, met up with a travel group or whatever. But that is a big thing for me to be
Mhm.
able to do that. Um, and so that's what kind of lights me up. And not only that, but then helping people, being of service feeds my soul.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so I just have, because I have taken the time to focus on me, I know that I enjoy those things. So then I started looking at, okay, what are the what are the things that I could do in each one of those categories. What
Yeah.
can I do for my mind? What can I do for my body? What, nourishes my soul? What are those things? And that's just how I live my life, you know. So I just mind my Black business. And I have had a lot of people come to me, and they admire what I do and how I do it. I'm at over, I think it's 278, no, 2078 days that have meditated consecutively every day.
Wow.
Now, sometimes it's as little as 5 minutes or 10
Mhm.
minutes, depending on, what I have going on. But I keep track, I have an app and it keeps track. And that's the first thing I do in the morning.
Okay.
They say you pray to talk to God and you meditate to listen to what he has to say.
Mhm.
And it's true because I have gotten, like I said, I've gotten downloads, I've gotten, you know, visions, I've gotten bright ideas. I've gotten, all those things, just being quiet, just sitting and being quiet just for a few minutes. And it doesn't take a whole lot. So my motivation for doing this retreat is to introduce those things that I have done on my journey to us. And hopefully, women will start to incorporate some of those things in their daily life. Um, you know, both of us are, in our organization, and the women are phenomenal, right?
Yeah.
And they're in other organizations and they sit on the board of this, and they're CEOs and they're entrepreneurs, and they got a whole list of things that they do on top of, having children or having spouses or, all of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was talking to a few of them, and I said, I'm just so impressed. It's a lot being me.
Yeah.
It's, like, it's a lot being me. I don't have, a plethora of things that I'm doing,
Mm-hmm.
um, like you all do. I said, when do you have time for yourself? When do you
Right.
take time for yourself? They said they don't. I was having a conversation. It was a handful of sisters, and they said they don't.
Yep.
And I was thinking, I'm like, you're not gonna be no good to nobody. The
It's
service that you're giving other people, you're cutting yourself short. You're selling yourself short because you won't be around,
right.
because you're not prioritizing yourself. So like I said, we just had our alumni picnic, and we had a balloon release, and we were honoring some classmates that have transitioned, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it has been really hard because we're only 53. That
Yeah.
is so young. But I can tell you, a handful of them have got heart attacks, strokes. At
Mm-hmm.
50, what?
Yeah.
What is going on? And so that is part of my motivation, just for us to take a minute just to pause
Mm-hmm.
and think about what's really important, or whatever. I'm not saying that you need to meditate. I'm not saying that you need to, I just want to be able to introduce it,
Mm-hmm.
provide a safe space for you to explore, because I've had people say, can you teach me how to meditate? Or, I've been wanting to go to a yoga class or whatever. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so now we can do this together. You know what I'm saying? And everybody's coming in, you know, knowing what they know or not knowing what they don't know. And then we'll just introduce it, and you can just start your own practice, whatever that looks like for you.
Yeah. You know, the guided meditation, um, I appreciate it because I'm just going to tell you, I find myself, I don't know, I get into, um, eh, I can't even begin to describe how relaxed I feel. It's almost as if I am watching myself, like I'm having this out of
Mm-hmm.
body experience where I am watching myself be at peace
Mm-hmm.
and calm. And then it's like when the meditation is over, I'm like, "Ah, it's over already,"
Right.
because I want to go back to that place
Mm-hmm.
where because I am guilty of my mind is just constantly racing. I just feel
Right.
like I'm always thinking about the next thing that I have to do. And I know a lot of people kind of talk about me and say, like, you're everywhere. You go from this place to this
Mm-hmm.
place to that place. And it is draining. People seem to think that I'm an extrovert. I am not. I really am not an extrovert. But I find, when I am running around doing all of the things,
Mm-hmm.
then I'm so drained that it takes, days, sometimes weeks, for me to just kind of replenish and
Right.
get myself back to a level where I feel like I can actually
Yeah.
function. But you're right, we can't continue to run ourselves in the ground that way because
Right.
we won't be here to share our gifts with other people if we are not taking the
Right.
time for ourselves. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. And taking that time to find out what your gifts are. Are you doing the things that you really, that your heart, that you desire to do, that your heart is telling you to do? Or are you falling under the pressure of society of this is what I should be doing?
Mm.
You got to take a minute and think about that. So,
Yeah.
but if you're constantly running, you're not thinking about that.
Right.
So if I had not started on this journey, I wouldn't be talking to you right now about the retreat that I'm wanting to curate. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Mhm.
I just would not have. I just, just would have been a never ending cycle of me just ripping and running, doing whatever it was that I was doing. But like I said, it all started with me, it physically taking a toll on my body.
Mhm.
I'm having headaches, just all the time, just overthinking and stressing and all of that. And on more even more personal note, I was diagnosed with, I had fibroids,
Mhm.
and they were, I mean, I go and get checked all the time. My doctor knew they were there, but they were so old. All doctors are old school in the sense where they not bothering you, don't bother it.
Right. Yeah.
And so even though I was going yearly and getting my exams, and she would do my exams and she knew that they were there, I didn't know because they weren't bothering me.
Mhm.
I had a couple of life-changing events that happened. My brother was actually murdered on my birthday 12 years ago.
Mhm. So sorry.
And that, and I had some other family stuff going on. And when that happened, now mind you, before that happened, I think I was vegetarian. I was working out like crazy, whatever, right? And I still would have like this kangaroo pouch. Most
Mhm.
moms have this kangaroo pouch. And I'm like, what is going on? And I'm like, I'm not eating meat. I'm working out. I'm doing all this stuff. And it just was not going away. And my brother was murdered, and not long after that, so I'm dealing with the stress and the grief and all of that that was going on. um and I realized that, I'm like, I just started to feel just physically ill, like I just, like everything was just wrong, and I
Mhm.
couldn't figure out what was going on with me. And so I went, I think the top of the year came and I had to change insurance companies. My doctor no longer took my insurance. And so I asked my doctor, could you refer me to another doctor that takes my insurance? So
Mhm.
she did that. I go in for an exam and she says, do you know you have fibroids? No, I did not know. So come to find out, my biggest one was the size of a grapefruit.
Oh wow.
It wasn't that way the year prior, but it had grown because of the stress that I had gone through and the trauma that I had gone through. Then it made it grow. And
Mhm.
so, now I have anemia, which led to restless leg syndrome. I'm not able to sleep because it's hard once I do relax or try to go to bed, my legs are hurting because I have restless leg syndrome. Well, I have restless leg syndrome because I have anemia. I have
Mm.
anemia because of the fibroids. Well, see, I didn't know any of this was going on. So
Yeah.
here I am trying to relax. I'm trying to sleep. I can't because I have restless leg syndrome. Not only that, it was on my bladder. So I'm getting up in the middle of the night to go to the restroom, and I was not getting not even 6 hours sleep.
Mhm.
It was just naps in between. Like I was not able to sleep through the night. And then I have to get up and go to work. And I'm just acting like a crazy woman because now I'm irritable. I'm irritable because I'm tired, you
Right.
know, and then I have all of these things going on or whatever. And I'm like, okay, something, this is not normal. Like something really has to give. And so that was one of the things that kind of pushed me into being more mindful of how I take care, of my body. And when I realized that the stress caused, I mean, it was already there, but when I'm saying the stress was
Yeah.
causing it, the symptoms to flare up like that,
Mhm.
I have to do something different.
Yeah. And stress definitely will manifest itself in different in different ways. And I'll tell you something funny. I carried my stress like in my shoulder and then in the back of my neck. And when I was away, there was, folks will try and sell you any and
Oh
everything,
yeah.
but there was this man on the beach. He gave massages, okay?
Yes.
And so he said to me, because my hair was up, you could see like there was just a bulge on the back, a knot
Mhm.
on the back of my neck.
Mhm.
And he said, either he said, you're very stressed. You don't sleep. You probably have 3 or 4 hours of sleep and get up in the middle of the night. And he said, um, either you're a boss or you're a grumpy lady. Which one is it? And so I was like, well, I'm a boss. I don't want to say that I'm a grumpy lady,
Mhm.
but I got a massage. He worked
The nod out.
the knot out. I felt like a totally, completely different person.
Mhm.
But I also know that when I'm stressed, there are, I get sick. All of a sudden I may have a cold or
Mhm.
the headaches and then let's not talk about the weight gain, but there are different, it manifests itself in different ways.
Exactly.
And that's why it is important for us, if we want to continue to see another day, like we can't allow ourselves to continue to operate in a space where we're allowing the stress to take over.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And even like you mentioned the massage, a lot of women, it's self-care. You should get a
Mm-hmm.
massage.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
then you notice you feel good for that day.
Right.
But you have to continue to do certain things to so that you don't, get rid of that feeling.
Mm-hmm.
You pay $150 for
Mm-hmm.
a 90-minute massage, and then afterwards it's like,
Yeah.
okay, it's like you didn't even have anything.
Yes.
You just
Yeah.
feel good in that moment. And that's where the self-love comes through, that it has to be genuine, it has to be all the time, it has to be in every, facet of your life. You should be expressing love to yourself.
Right.
And it goes into my self-love is manifesting itself in, people talk about how confident I am.
Mm-hmm.
And, we talked about the whole dating thing and the flirting first and, whatever. It's like, that's just but that came from the self love. If I
Mm-hmm.
didn't love myself the way that I do, I wouldn't have the confidence that I have to do certain things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so just that, the self love, ties into the confidence, but it also ties into the manifestation of things to
Yeah.
happen for me. You know what I'm saying? So you gotta think about how you're presenting yourself. How do
Mm-hmm.
you really feel?
Yes.
Because that's what's happening. How you really feel is what's happening. It's,
Mm-hmm.
and when you study like the law of attraction and you study manifestation, they tell you all the time, they always give the example. You ever think about, I think I want a Bronco. And then
Mm.
you go outside and all you see every
Our
time you
Bronco.
turn around are Broncos. Like, it
Yeah.
happens all the time. And it's the same thing with anything and everything that you want. How you really feel will
Mm-hmm.
start to manifest itself,
Yeah.
you know. And so you got to think about that types of things when you're moving about, in the world and everything. So it's not just self-care. Well, let me go, you know, get my hair done, get my nails done, or whatever. It's like, no, how do you really feel? Don't try to cover it up.
Right.
How do you really feel, about yourself? I
Right.
started before I locked up, I started going gray. And I was just like, cause I like it, cause I don't care, because I don't have money to be going to the hairdresser every 4 weeks to get this
Yeah.
gray covered up is so disrespectful and no. And so I like myself enough to go through this process, you know what I'm saying, and just let my gray do. I'm 53.
Mhm.
I know I don't look 53. I don't feel 53, but it
Mhm.
is what it is. Okay, I'm
Yeah.
gray. So let the gray do whatever it is it's gonna do.
Yes. So, as we kind of wind down, um, tell the people about the retreat, the date, how can we get tickets?
Okay, so that
And what's the day gonna look like? I know it's 10 to 6.
so yeah, so I am trying to be mindful of everybody. I feel like on some to some degree I'm introducing something new to a lot of people, right? So they might be like, 10, that's just too long, or whatever. But I would appreciate it if everybody stayed the whole day to get the whole that it's part of your self-care. Take a day to
Mm-hmm.
yourself. I mean, it's over at 6 o'clock. I mean, you still got the rest of the evening if you wanted, to do something or whatever.
Right.
But um, so I just kind of wanted to guide the women through all the things, that I have experienced, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
have facilitators for each one of those things. I'm your host, I'm your curator, but I'm not doing it.
Okay. Okay.
So I have people, in my circle that are experts in different fields, and so they'll be actually facilitating. So we'll start the day off with yoga. We'll get into some breathing exercises, some sound bath meditation, and some energy clearing. And I don't want people to get freaked out about the energy clearing. But what
Mm.
happens is that when you go through the breathing exercises, you have, the fire breath, you have, different things. So when you start going through those breathing, you're actually releasing that energy.
Energy. Yeah.
You talked about the meditation, how, you start to feel a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
I know some people may indulge in other things to kind of feel high. I meditate because if
Right.
you practice it enough and you really let yourself go there, it's
Mm-hmm.
the same fit,
Yeah.
I assume, because I don't get
Yeah.
high, but I assume it's the same. It's the
Mm-hmm.
same euphoric kind of
Mm-hmm.
feeling, where you're feeling like you're kind of just real lightheaded and you're kind of floating, and what it really is a good feeling, and it's
Mm-hmm.
good for you, you know.
Right.
Um, and so we'll that's kind of the morning
Okay.
part of the day. I have a caterer to provide, nutritious whole food for us, real
Yay.
live food,
Okay.
um, and to kind of give people an alternative to, the usual. Um,
Mm-hmm.
food that will fuel you, that will really, feed your body and nourish
Yeah.
you. And then, I have someone, a nutritionist, coming in to talk about food and, how that relates, to our overall health and, different
Okay.
things like that. Um, and then just the overall health and wellness discussion. I sent out a survey not too long ago, and some of the feedback that I got from some of the women, they want to have discussions about menopause. They want to
Mhm.
have discussions about caring for aging parents. They want
Yeah.
to have, how that's affecting them. They want to have discussions about, children going off to college and being an empty nester. They want to talk about being 50 and single. They want to talk about those things, and some women may not have their own sister circle in order to
Yeah.
do that. And so I want to create a space where we're able to come together, and have those types of discussions. So that's part of the sister circle, um, part of the day. I also have someone coming in to do 10-minute, 10-15 minute massages,
Mhm.
stretch and flex, so even if they don't do the yoga, still stretching,
Right.
that matters. And it's really considered like body work.
Okay.
And it kind of lets you know, like, especially for me, like I sit all day at work. So
Yes.
there's certain exercise. I mean, I can't do yoga at work, but there's certain stretches that I need to try to do throughout the day, to help me, so that I don't have the lower back pain and, my hips are not tight or whatever. And so as far as we carry a lot of stress in our hips as women.
Mhm.
And
Yes.
so the second half of the day, I have an instructor come to do embodied dance movement. So we're
Oh,
going to move those hips, that's part of the release, you
yeah.
know, we're going to move those hips and move that energy around, and have fun doing that. I am looking for vendors.
Okay.
The space is absolutely beautiful, but I don't want to have too many of the same vendor. So I will be, putting something out. People have already contacted me like, okay, I want to come. Like, is there opportunity for vendors? There will be opportunity for vendors. I just have to, there's an application. So I have to kind of go through to see, okay, does it really align with the
Mm.
intention of the day? Because I don't
Right.
want it to be like a bazaar,
Right.
or
Yeah.
just selling just to be selling, because hopefully it'll be a room full of women. That
Right.
is that is, that is my prayer and my hope, that it's a room full of women. I don't want I need to be intentional about who I'm sharing space with, you
Right.
know.
Yeah.
Um so yeah, so it's gonna be Saturday, October 12th.
Okay.
It's 10 to 6.
Mm-hmm.
Um there is a full day registration available. Early bird is going on now until the 18th. I was trying to
Okay.
give people time, if they get paid on the 15th, to give them time to get that early bird.
Girl, I'm the 16th, so that'll be okay.
Right. So there's early bird registration going on now. And there is a registered, bring a friend,
Okay.
um, as well. So that's really a good savings, because you pay the early bird registration and then the second one is half off of that.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah. So I mean, because I really want to encourage, the more people I get in the room, the better.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that was my way. I'm like, okay, maybe they'll say, okay, girl, come with me, or whatever. But
Yeah.
if not, like I said, single day, single registration for all day.
Okay.
And then you have the bring a friend. But then I also gave an opportunity for those that are busy and don't have the time to do half day registration. So if you
Okay.
want to come in the morning and participate in the yoga and the breathing exercises, you know and then you have to leave, then that's fine. But if you have something to do in the morning, you want to come in the afternoon, and then you'll still be able to have lunch, you'll be able to participate in the health and wellness discussion, the dance embodiment, you'll be able to partake with the vendors longer in the afternoon session, and all of that. So there's several different options,
Okay.
through the registration link.
Now, where do we go to register? Is there a website
There is not a website yet.
or a link, registration link? Like, how do
Yes.
we register? That's what I meant.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
I'll have to give you that. It's a bit.ly link, because there is a registration form, because I'm asking some questions on there. I just want to kind of get a feel of who's attending, like, what challenges are they facing, and having their own self-care routine. What are they looking to experience from the event? So I kind of want to get more information than just like, you know,
Just, yeah.
just register.
Right.
Um, so the event is on Facebook, so you should be able to find it. Empower
Okay.
Her Mind, Body, and Soul on Facebook. Um,
Okay.
and then I'm sure you'll share the link.
Yes.
Now there is an Eventbrite um link for it too.
Oh, okay. So folks
The
can
only the only thing the only thing with Eventbrite is the Eventbrite does charge, they are charging for fees.
yeah.
So I'm For those that know me and can reach out and touch me, I would prefer them to go through the registration link or through Facebook, because then they will eliminate the fees that Eventbrite is going to charge. But if somebody happens to see it on Eventbrite and it tickles their fancy, I'm not I'm not gonna tell them they can't come. So it is on Eventbrite.
Well,
and it's at Salonlb.
Okay.
It's in Bridgeport. That's 1010 West 35th Street.
And
it's Suite 500. And when I tell you the space, when I walked in there, it was just like the heavens had opened up. It's an art gallery.
Yeah.
And it has it's kind of like a loft space.
Yeah.
It has the big windows. You see the skyline. It's just,
oh, that's gonna be awesome.
Yeah. It's really a nice. I'm like, okay, this is it. This is it.
Well, I am looking forward to it. And I think October 12th, for those who have children, that's a long holiday weekend. So, girl, carve time out for yourself. Because your child will be out of school on Monday, that following Monday. So take Saturday from 10 to 6. You deserve it. You owe it to yourself to participate in the Empower Her Mind, Body, and Soul retreat. I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited about it.
Well, thank you. Thank you for allowing me to come on here and talk about what I'm passionate about. And hopefully encourage other women to, prioritize themselves, and take better care of themselves.
Yes, please do take heed to what Echo shared. It is so important for you. You can't practice self-care if you don't practice self-love. So you need to love yourself, because self-care is the act of showing yourself love.
Exactly.
And I would love for you. So I know you were a first timer here on Light It Up. So I want to thank you for stepping out and joining me as a guest. This is season 9 of Light It Up. So you were my very first guest for season 9.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
okay.
so very special. And I want to make sure we do this during Virgo season. So
for sure.
I am very intentional, right, in the things that I do. But I'm so excited that you decided to join me. I would love to have you back, because the other conversation that I want to have, we got to figure out.
We could talk about that, which it ties into your self-love now. So, the whole dating, navigating these dating streets.
Ooh. Yeah, that's something. That's a different topic for a different day.
Yeah.
But you were a wonderful guest. Thank you so much for joining me here on Light It Up. And for those of you in the viewing and the listening audience, you can certainly find the information about the retreat on Facebook. Echo, I know you're on Facebook, you're on Instagram too. So the event is live and posted on social media. We'll make sure that there's a link in the show notes as well, so that you can get right to that registration. Don't forget, take advantage of the early bird special. Bring a friend, because show your friend some love and make sure that she's able to come and experience just a wonderful day that Echo is curating for women who deserve to have this type of retreat to really exercise that self-love. So thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of Light It Up. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. And make sure you come back next week to see if I have another very interesting guest. But until next time, don't forget to continue to light it up and shine bright like a diamond. Thanks for joining me this week on Light It Up. Make sure you visit my website at www.lightituppodcast.com or www.aginahmuhammad.com. You can also find me on social media using the handle at LITE It Up Podcast. If you like what you've heard, please be sure to hit the subscribe button so you'll never miss a show. While you're at it, I'd appreciate a rating on iTunes, or you can simply tell a friend about the show. Be sure to tune in every Tuesday for a new episode. Until next time, light it up and shine bright like a diamond.